Hey there, guys. Big fan of the show. Of course, we all know that Spider-Man is already joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe next year, but remember when Sony already planned their own franchise before the deal? The deal came from the disappointment of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But do you think that the 2 sequels and 3 spin-offs, including Sinister Six, Venom, and a female-led film, would have been better?
It's all theoretical because you never know. We don't know how. Look, if they had moved forward with their own Spider-Man in his own cinematic universe films over at Sony, would we have gotten the first Amazing Spider-Man? Would we have gotten Raimi's Spider-Man 2? Or would we have gotten Raimi's Spider-Man 3 and second Amazing Spider-Man films? We don't know what we would have gotten. So it's all really theoretical. Now remember, it's still important to keep pointing out that Spider-Man still belongs to Sony. They've just got a deal now that he can play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and vice versa. My opinion is still this. I preferred the idea, in theory, of Spider-Man. I didn't want Spider-Man in the MCU. I still like the idea of having a superhero movie where there's not a world full of thousands of other superheroes. Spider-Man was unique in his universe in that way, and I liked that was there. Now, I'm still a slobbering geek. Am I excited to see what they do with Spider-Man in the MCU? Absolutely I am. But I will admit, if I could go back in time, and remember, we're all still talking theoreticals here because we don't know what these other Sony movies might have been. We don't know what he's going to be in the new MCU, so it's all theoretical. But I would have rathered him still be in his own isolated cinematic universe because that just highlights the uniqueness and the specialness of Spider-Man to me personally. That does not mean I'm not excited to see what they're going to do next. I am excited to see what they're going to do next. But I got to admit, I was curious to see where they were going to go. But again, it all depends. Were we going to get the Amazing Spider-Man 1 kind of movies? Or were we going to get the Amazing Spider-Man 2 kind of movies? I mean, Mark, how do you see this?
I think that a lot of awesome ideas were thrown around when Sony had that Spidey Summit. Remember,
Yes.
It was like my first appearance on Movie Talk. We were talking about the Spidey Summit and like how exciting it was. They're going to throw every idea against the wall and see what sticks. And Sinister Six was rumored, and Venom was rumored. Venom, who has done a horrible disservice in Spider-Man 3, that I want to see that character bloom and be like a full-blown villain in multiple movies against Spider-Man. I'd like to see Carnage, too. There's so many things that I want to see in a Spider-Man world that you might get handicapped a little bit because he's going to be playing in the Marvel playground now. Marvel is going to be involved in the Sony movies, in the standalone Spider-Mans as well. So I trust Marvel so much, but I also believe in a studio being able to rebound, being able to take the criticism from Amazing Spider-Man 2 and say, okay, look, we botched that job a little bit. Let's get together. Let's fix this. Let's put our own story group and take care of Spider-Man, which is our flagship property. After all the email leaks and all that stuff came out, it was a totally different landscape. I would have liked to have seen it either way. I'm leaning towards just the excitement of seeing Spider-Man be a part of the...
It's hard to argue against that.
I know.
It's hard to argue against that.
But I'm going to give the win to what we have right now in overtime versus what we could have had with Sony.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Mark. You know, like I hated Amazing Spider-Man 2 so much that I'm very happy that the Marvel was able to make a deal with Sony to take it away so that we didn't get us an Amazing Spider-Man 3 because of just the direction they were going. They're like, yes, Spider-Man, I don't care. All of these ideas are crap. Like, I saw a trailer that told me one thing, and then the execution of it was the polar opposite. So I didn't want to see a Sinister Six in that universe. Like, Spider-Man has the best rogues gallery. The only other superhero that can even compete is Batman.
Yeah.
You've like Spider-Man's got Kraven, he's got Mysterio, he's got like a list of amazing villains, like as opposed to a lot of these other characters where you're like, even like Superman, you're like, it's Lex Luthor, Brainiac, and then you start running out. You're like, Bizarro, Mitzelplick. It's not like, there's like 2 or 3 big bads in all of the other superheroes, but Spider-Man and Batman they have such a great like psychological thing going on that they were able to just create all the like 7, 10 different amazing, iconic super villains to go along with it, let alone that it ruined me and Ellis's Aunt May. We were like, had the script done, everything was cast. So now we have to go ahead and now we're dealing with Marvel, all these intricate,
We're dealing with Tomei now. It really throws a wrench into our Betty White casting idea.
Yeah, we were really, really excited about it. But yeah, I think that this Amazing Spider-Man, the only thing that, we've talked about this, when these properties that Marvel had sold off early on were at other studios like Fox and Sony, it allowed us to see like 3 superhero films in 1 week. It was like X-Men, Spider-Man, and Captain America were all out, and they're all in the marquee, and it was like, this is pretty cool that we can see all three of
This
these
is
films.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
And my thing was like 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You know, I was like, out of those 3 movies, I loved 2 of them and hated one of them. But at least you get that, you know, chance to see a bunch of really cool characters, not having to wait for because of the, you know, when they got Spider-Man, they had to bump Black Panther and they had to shuffle their slate down. So, you know, things are all working out in the way that hopefully it'll all be good. Sony will keep doing these Spider-Man movies integrated into the Marvel world. And I don't think we need to see all these things. I think you'll see Venom and all these other characters have their own standalone
At some
separately.
point,
Right.
yeah. I think one of the other big things that a friend of mine I was discussing with, and I talked to somebody from Sony once, and here's one of the big problems that even I, as a defender of the pre-existing Spider-Man films, despite the fact that Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a letdown, here's the thing. The guy said to me, here's the thing. They messed up the villains so badly in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah. There are a number of things that I think worked really well in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but the things that didn't work really didn't work. And one of those things was their villains, that they messed up that whole villain universe so badly that, and look, I'm not breaking a scoop here, okay? I'm just saying that even without the Marvel deal, I can tell you this. Sony was going to reboot the Spider-Man universe anyway. They were going to reboot it because they had botched up that they had so rushed. Oh, now let's have Rhino. Now let's turn Dane DeHaan into Goblin. And now let's have and they messed that up so badly. They sabotaged their own future. And I can tell you this, Sony was going to reboot that franchise anyway. And they knew it. And so from that point of view, you got me saying, I kind of wish he still had his own universe. Even I got to say, that's a point in the moving him into the MCU category. I mean, it's just that I'm so mad about it because I thought The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was so freaking good. I thought it was so good.
Yeah, it was a really good setup.
I thought it was great.
And